A season-high 7-game losing streak is attached to the Philadelphia 76ers as they host the Chicago Bulls tonight. But a more pressing issue with their franchise player staring the organization squarely in the face right now: what to do with Joel Embiid. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Pregame Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Alongside Rich Hoffman, I'm Devon Givens. Breon is producing all of you in the chat as we kick off this Monday with the 76ers' final game of their 3-game homestand. An opportunity, as we thought, to win another basketball game, but after watching the Sixers for 56 games, how dare us expect them to win any of these games, even against these lesser opponents? The problem with the Chicago Bulls is they are right in front of the Sixers when it comes to the standings, sitting at that 10th or 11th spot somewhere for the Chicago Bulls. I think they're in the 10th spot right now. Brooklyn in the 11, the Sixers right behind both of those two teams. So for all of you who are wanting the Sixers to lose this basketball game, well, the Bulls stink too, but they're on a whole different level for where the 76ers are, who once again have lost 7 games in a row. We'll give our pregame picks a little bit later. We'll let you know who the starters are tonight. But as we start here tonight, Rich, Joel Embiid already ruled out, so we know he's not the man in the middle tonight. Most likely going to be, I'd assume, Gershon Yabusele. But beyond that, following off of our conversation that we had on Saturday after that heartbreaking loss for them, or for whoever wanted them to win, or in the manner in which they lost that at the buzzer after coming back. But our conversation really steered towards the Embiid injury, being benched in the 4th. And since then, there have been reports from Kyle Neubeck of PHLY Sports. Go read allphly.com to read his latest from earlier today. There have been reports from Shams Charania, of course, of ESPN, stating that they still would like to see more doctors, get some more testing done, some more specialists. Nick Nurse even spoke about that before today's game, of how they had some things looked at within Embiid's knee. Still some more today to be looked at, and also tomorrow being looked at. Rich, what could they possibly be looking for now with these 26 games remaining, which we'll talk about the approach here a little bit later? What are they even doing with Joel Embiid right now? What should they be doing?
Well, I asked you the other night, I said, this feels like the last game of his season to me. And would you shut him down? And you said yes as well. The question is, would they shut him down? And again, it's not official, right? They're holding him out for tonight's game, and there's been a bunch of reports about, like you said, about they're looking for new stuff, trying to consult new people. It sure feels like they're shutting him down, though, Devon. It feels like they're on the runway, and I would advise anybody who is a diehard, also, if you're not a diehard, go sign up. We have a deal going on right now. Kyle's article was very good on this subject, talking about kind of why there's been weirdness in terms of how the Sixers have portrayed this for most of the year, where there's been agreement between Joel and the Sixers, where there's been some disagreement between Joel and the Sixers. But the TLDR version of it, to me, there's a ton of takeaways that I'm going to make you go read for the most part. But the TLDR, the most important piece is they have tried a bunch of options that have been low risk so far. The options of rehab and hopefully, the rest of your knee will strengthen around it. It will get better as time goes on. That has not worked to this point. We saw the other night that has not worked. And clearly the Shams report from last night was the organization admitting that it has not worked so far. As Kyle pointed out, there are a lot more higher risk options. There are riskier. There is the transplant that Lonzo Ball got the other day. I will say that Kyle mentioned that has not been discussed to his knowledge between Joel and the Sixers. Anyway, there are a lot of long shot, riskier options that they have not done. To me, I think they're kind of just biding their time right now. I think they know that we're going to shut them down for the rest of the year, but we're going to try and spin this in a certain way. And the question then turns to, I think, what does the rest of the team do for these final 26 games? I guess, is there anything else you want to add to what you took from Kyle's report?
No, that was pretty much all. Honestly, that's all we really want to give away. We do want people to go and sign up and become a member if you have yet to do so, or if you already are, didn't have a chance to read it, maybe you were at work running around doing some errands. It was nice out today, and you had an opportunity to go out and get some fresh air and not worry about freezing outside. Go back, read the story, check it out.
Bree's got it up in the chat for you.
Yes, so it's a really good, it's really in depth from the work that Kyle did, speaking to some sources, speaking to whomever he did to get the information. So it's really well done as always from Kyle there at allphly.com. So I don't have much to add to it except for just going back to the mental part. Kyle did talk a lot about that. We spoke a lot about that post game as well. And one thing that really was glaring to me at just thinking back about it, went on television last night to talk a little bit about it on our buddy Pat Gallen's CBS 3 show, talked to Anthony Gargano this morning about it as well, where that mental side of things, again, Rich, him having to decide and accepting who he is, that's a difficult thing for high-level athletes to do. We've discussed from Carmelo Anthony to Russell Westbrook to all different names there that they take the longest to accept their fate of who they currently are if they're still able to play in their respective sports. Pro football, baseball, hockey, soccer, whatever sport, choose your sport. They all are, not all, there's a decent amount that always feels, hey, I can figure this out and get back to the level of play where I was. So as we talk about everything with the knee, the possible surgeries, and him being frustrated of, why is this not working? I'm trusting in you guys to tell me what to do. This is not working. Or him, because he has a big, big voice in this, folks, of how he wants to approach things. Or him, just simply saying, I can go out there and do this, no worries, just wrap my knee up, put this brace on, and put all these other bandages around it to help how I run up and down the floor and defend. I could not get past Rich, while it all wasn't all his fault in that 40-point performance by the Nets in the first quarter, and that 26 in the paint, or
26 points in the paint.
That wasn't all him.
No.
But a damn good amount of it was him. Yeah. They didn't fear him either.
No.
And this was not D'Angelo Russell. This was not Dennis Schroeder at the time with the Brooklyn Nets. This was Keon Johnson, Zaire Williams, and others. Killian Hayes, for goodness sake, on day 3 of his 10-day contract starting for the Brooklyn Nets, deciding I can get to the paint and I don't have to worry about any rim protection there because Joel Embiid can't move. And it was Nick Claxton, Day'Ron Sharpe. So the physical and all that stuff that we talk about, but that mental that he discussed in the past, and Kyle mentioned it on the postgame show with us, of how much that really, really tested him and how it really, really bothered him, the mental aspect of him understanding that he could not do certain things and having to accept it. Well, he's back out there on the floor this season for 19 games. And even in those 19 games, we've seen spots where we saw that he couldn't do it. You know good and damn well he knew he couldn't do it, but he couldn't process that he couldn't do those things that made him the great MVP candidate, Joel Embiid, that we have seen for so many years now in that Sixers uniform. And that is a big part of where he has to go forward, how they have to decide in these final, now 25, since he's not playing tonight, the mental aspect too of, hey man, look, you think, Rich, you already think that, and I'm with you, that they've probably already made that decision. That said, they have to have, and he has to be open-minded. Easy for me to say, but he has to be open-minded about having discussions with whomever he needs to have discussions about. Hey man, this is where we're going to go as a player, but you also have to make sure that you are right there in your head to know that you can still be effective, you think, but you have to accept that this is who you're going to be for at least in the immediate, and then go forward with however things transpire on the floor.
Yeah, Derek actually told me, I was talking to him, he said that basically, usually when Joel has bad body language, man, it's usually because of his teammates screwing up, or a coach screwing up, or an official screwing up, one of those things. The other night he had bad body language because he was screwing up.
He was defeated.
And yeah, he was defeated, and his body was not getting him over the finish line. So I completely agree with you. I completely agree with Kyle that the mental aspect of this is very important moving forward. I just think let's push that to next year and hopefully come back with him rested and, with a new plan. But you're right. Some of this is pushing through this mentally, and we'll see. I don't want to diminish the physical aspects
Not
of
at
this
all.
too,
Not at all.
because he does not have very much meniscus left, I would imagine, and there's a reason why that swelling and that pain is pretty consistent. Yeah. So I will say, let's go to
Before we get to the 26, I wanted to ask you this because I was talking to our buddy, 2 Minute Warning, Al, on Twitter, and Al was saying, "Oh, I've been telling you this for a while about Joel Embiid." And my comeback to Al was, "Al, we can have good discussion and disagree like we did the other night with, I can't remember who we were talking to, where we disagreed with them in the chat. It's always good back and forth. That's what makes sports fun. It's not all that serious. We can yell up and back and forth at each other. We can laugh. We can throw things at each other and still come back, shake hands, and go shoot some hoops, right?" And I was saying to Al, because this is a big part too, where there's so many people deciding in their minds of what they think the Sixers should do, how they should go about it, where you were in December versus where you are now. Yeah. I wasn't there in December.
I wasn't there either.
I wasn't there in early January. I'm there now.
These last 5 games, particularly the last game, and Joel has changed my point of view. And so, look, there are going to be plenty of people who disagree, and I think we're probably going to talk about this a lot in the post game.
Oh,
as well.
For sure, yeah.
But because Joel Embiid, again, Nick Nurse did not officially say that they are ruling him out for the season, but because he does not look like he's going to be playing at a high level in the next couple months, I look at this and say, well, what's the reward here? The reward for most of the season, Devon, in theory, was get these guys healthy, get them all playing together, and then you have a dangerous team, even if it's from a low seed in the Eastern Conference. With Joel's injury, with the fact that Joel, this is not even a tanking move, man. That's the crazy thing about it. You're just shutting him down for his best, the best intentions for him moving forward and hoping he can figure it out. The sad truth of this is that putting Joel in the game was actually the tanking move. Like, I think the other night, if they would have played Yabusele at center from the start of the game, they would have won. They would have won. Joe was bad the other night, and it's the complete opposite of what we have seen from him for most of his career. I wrote about this today. Like, if you go back to his rookie season, that 2016-2017 team, so his third season, but the first season he was actually playing
where
on the court.
He played 31 games.
Yeah, he played 31 games.
Yeah.
That team was not very good. They had a bunch of journeymen. They had Gerald Henderson, Sergio Rodriguez, Stauskas running around, bunch of those type of guys. The only guy on the team who was any sort of regular with a positive plus-minus was Joel Embiid, and he didn't even know what he was doing as an NBA player at that point. He was kind of running around all over the place, jumping into the third row,
just
like
excited to be out
like
there,
a madman.
Right.
But he was already so good and so difference making that he was driving winning with that team. And it wasn't like, I think he had like a +4 net rating when he was on the court too. So like, it wasn't like they were just skating by. They were actually pretty good when he was playing. This is the exact opposite. So when I look at that, I say, what is the reward? And what is the reward of going the other way?
So let's look at the final 26 here.
The final 26, and we still need to figure out exactly how this looks. But to me, it's pretty obvious that the best thing for this team is, unfortunately, to lose. And so I'm going to get out in front of this because there are going to be a bunch of people in this chat who I think in general just like want to watch the team play every night. They come home from work. They enjoy watching the team. They're going to root for somebody like Tyrese Maxey. They just want to win. I have no argument against that. I respect that. And if that is your opinion, that's great. I'm not telling you you're wrong. But in terms of, long-term thinking and how Daryl Morey has to think about this and how the team has to think about it, it doesn't really matter whether you give away the 7th pick or the 10th pick to Oklahoma City. But you actually have a chance now, if you do tank these last 27 games, to get Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper or any of the top 6 picks in the draft, right? It is such a situation where the downside is that you could lose the pick. And if that wasn't the case, Devon, like let's just say they had an unprotected pick or they had their own pick this year. So wherever it was going to fall, I wouldn't be as adamant about this, right? If you want to start from the 8th worst record or the 9th worst record, that doesn't
just go top 10 protected.
Yeah, that doesn't make even if it was that too. Yeah. That would not make a huge difference to me. But because the margins are so slim and because this pick is very lightly protected, it really is a boom or bust proposition here. And now with the playoffs and Joel not being available and the playoffs basically being taken off the table as an option, I think that they need to tank. And let's say they get Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. Imagine how much better our summer would be, right? We'd be talking about the draft and the decision to make the pick going up to the draft. Imagine how much fun Summer League would be. You'd get to watch that guy play for the first time.
You kidding me?
Imagine how much fun training camp would be the next year, and the Sixers would be in a much better spot. Now, it doesn't have to be that either. It could be a lower pick in the top 6, and maybe they trade that pick for something good and they get financial flexibility, or, maybe it's just a lower prospect. I'd be excited about VJ Edgecombe too. There are a bunch of good options that they could get with that pick. To me, it's pretty obvious. Now, I understand the idea that tanking stinks. It stinks. It's not fun.
And I did not like the rebuild when they did it years ago.
We did 3 years of that. That was hard.
I did not like it.
It was hard to deal with.
Yeah.
They weren't terrible for 3 straight years, but they were terrible for most of 3 straight years.
It was bad.
It was hard to watch. Even that next year, they were better in that 2016-2017 season that I just referenced, but they still weren't very good until 17-18. I actually was for it. I thought it was the right thing. They didn't execute some of those draft picks well. Clearly, we don't need to relitigate that. I'm not asking for fans to deal with this for 3 more years. I'm asking the Sixers to do this for 25 games, right? And we'll see where the chips fall. This does not guarantee anything. You could get that 5th worst record and still lose out on that pick. I am fully cognizant of that. I understand the downsides, but that is where I'm at. Now, how does it play out over the past 26 games? I don't know because Paul George probably would be okay with sipping Mai Tais on the beach with the missus. Probably. He'd probably do that right away.
Perry AP.
Yeah, he'd probably do that right away. The guy, and I mean this in a very positive way,
Tyrese
that I don't know who you would, how you could get to do this, is Tyrese Maxey.
He's going for 40 every night.
Right?
Right.
He wants to compete, and I think that's great. I think that's great. So I don't really know how this plays out. I'm not sure they're going to adopt like a full tanking strategy. They might end up with this number 10 seed by default. Frankly, the fact that Tyrese Maxey's playing tonight, I think they're going to win the night. I think they're going to win.
Wow, you haven't said that in a long time, too.
I think they're going to win the night's game. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not going to be militant about that. I'm not going to come in here. Maybe I could get myself a nice tank commander hat.
Bree, we got to give him a tank hat now.
One of those old school ones, Anyway, that's but that is my opinion on where I'm
talking
at.
about the commander helmet? Like
yeah,
the
exactly.
Tank helmet, the fatigue one. We got to find. That's the next one. But I am with you. Just to kind of to follow up on this with you. Again, I did not like the rebuild. I didn't like the strategy. I understood it. Just did not like it. It wasn't my cup of tea. Sure. They did what they did. Here we are now, though. This is a little bit different where you're talking about one stretch of 26 games.
Less pain.
Less painful. You need some more young talent. As we talked about, so many veterans on this roster that we thought were good for this season, and it did not work out because of a variety of things. But for where they are right now and the ability to get that pick with that talent that is up there in that top 6, it is probably within their best interest. No, it is in their best interest to go out there and find a way to get that pick. Now, we have said a bunch of times, this team is so bad, they will lose games, and they don't have to do it on purpose by sitting George, by sitting Maxey, or anyone else outside of Embiid, but he helps you lose games because of how he's played on the floor.
This next stretch, they're going to lose regardless of who's playing after tonight's game.
And listen, folks, they have 4 games every week this upcoming schedule of March. 4 games a week. They have New York on Wednesday in New York. Not going to be easy against that Knicks team. Say whatever you want about the Knicks. They're better than the Sixers.
Way better.
And that is going to be problematic for them. And then as Rich pointed out, the schedule they're going after, Golden State is playing some pretty good basketball. That's a loss on Saturday. That's an 8:30 game, by the way. We'll be here for the pre and post, all 3 of us, home game for the Sixers. But I agree with you 100%. They need to find a way to make sure that they don't win these games.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they are, and it stinks.
A lot of Jared Butler, a lot of Jeff Doughton.
We'll see how it goes, because I think they're going to get a lot of competition. Frankly, like the fact that they lost to Brooklyn the other night was remarkable. All I could think
Jordy
of.
Fernandez has that team playing hard for him.
Oh yeah,
they play hard basketball.
Good young coach. But I wonder if Sean Marks pulled him into the office afterwards and was like,
"My man,
Jordy, like what are we doing here?
Settle
like,
down.
Come on, man.
Settle down, Jordy."
I just imagine Sean Marks in the middle of that game going, "Are you serious?" after every transition bucket, man. They traded Mikal in large part to get their picks back this year, and their whole strategy was, okay, we can move forward with Mikal if Houston will give us our picks, or we can not move forward with Mikal if Houston will give us our picks back, but we'll do something totally different if they balk at that or whatever. Their whole strategy was to tank this year, and Joel Embiid is like getting beat down the floor by Nick Claxton every play. Anyway, I think they're going to get some competition from those teams. I don't think it's automatic that they'll keep their spot in the pecking order.
They're in the bottom. They're bottom 5 right now, right?
They're sixth.
Sixth. Okay, sorry.
They're sixth, and that's less than a 50% chance, but only barely. And if they win the night, they could be like the 10th seed tomorrow.
And the team the 2 spots ahead of them, the Chicago Bulls, their opponent tonight. So, handle your business in the other way. Keep losing. Losing.
So anyway, guys, I think these last 26 games are going to get weird. We're not going to be here like, screaming you should tank after every single game. But that is the right move. Like that's how it goes. And, we'll see. Tonight's game will be very interesting, man. 7 in a row for the Sixers. Losses. That is, if you haven't been paying attention, 7 losses in a row, and 6 in a row for the Bulls. So we have the stoppable force against the movable object tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's head to the arena right now. Check in with Kyle Neubeck joining us pregame against the Chicago Bulls as the Sixers host the Bulls tonight, trying to snap their 7-game skid. Kyle Neubeck, make sure you go read his story as we've been telling you for the pregame already, allphly.com, with the latest great information, great intel that he was able to put together for the story at allphly.com. Kyle, Joel Embiid out. Tyrese Maxey is in. I saw your photo on Twitter where his 2 fingers were taped together, not like Paul George where he has the splint. 2 fingers taped together. What was it that Nick Nurse said pregame that talked about Tyrese Maxey, his ability to give it a go here tonight?
Yeah, so just kept it pretty simple on Tyrese, that it was a game time decision, that he was going to have to test it out a little bit in warm-ups. From what Nurse had been told, was not a serious concern, but obviously once you look at the hand on the ball and he's using it in warm-ups, it's a little bit like, do you really want to put him out there tonight? Like it becomes one of those things that as you get deeper into this season and you're looking at the lottery odds, and certainly a game like tonight where it's a double value game in both directions, there's a little bit of, well, yeah, you could probably make the excuse he won't play, but got to actually convince Tyrese of that. So that's another story.
What else do we have, Kyle? Did they talk about Joel Embiid at all? Nick Nurse in particular?
Yeah. So the broad strokes here, he underwent some testing and evaluations today. Nick said he would honestly tonight would still be getting evaluations and testing done and into tomorrow. And then hopefully at that point they have a clearer picture of sort of what the future looks like. So he got asked directly if he thought that the last game Joel played this season was Saturday night. And Nick said he was not prepared to say that they still have to go through all this stuff. But I mean, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's kind of our shared feeling right now, right? Is like this guy doesn't look right. He's been saying, I need to fix this. We're talking about experimental procedures and, the different options that he could choose to go with here. We'll see, obviously, what the doctors say, what the team concludes, and frankly, what Joel wants to do. But I just don't really see a path forward here where it's like, yeah, he's just going to keep playing and powering through this. If we're tea leaf reading, it doesn't seem to be leaning in that direction.
Especially, they've tried everything, as you pointed out, not only on our show, but in your story at allphly.com. And with that being said, I don't know what else there is to possibly figure out. So I ask you this, before you jumped in, we were talking about the approach for the final 26 games. Okay, he's out tonight. After tonight, there'll be 25 more, starting with the Knicks on Wednesday in New York. What do you think they should do in terms of their approach to the final 25?
Well, it's tough, right? Because organizationally, I think it's very clear that they have to start shutting things down and positioning themselves for the draft lottery, right? Because that becomes arguably, and not even arguably, it becomes the single most important thing for the organization this season, right? If you have a goal, it is now, you're not looking at a championship and a deep playoff run. It's holding on to this pick. And so at the organizational level, maybe front office ownership, all that, you could make some decisions and calls about, hey, what do we do? Do we sit this guy down? If it's an optional procedure somebody can get, do we have them get that and encourage that? But, when it comes to Nick and the guys that are on the floor, honestly, Billy Donovan talked about it a lot tonight from the Bulls perspective. It's just like, we keep playing, right? Like, we keep competing, and you can't go to guys and be like, it's just like a casual thing to show up and not care about winning. And so it's a weird balance, right? And I think, unfortunately, Sixers fans have been down this road before, right? Where once they started getting young talent during the process days, it was like, well, do you want them to win these games, or do you want them to maximize? And I think there's a balance of both. So I think as far as the guys on the floor that I deal with, that Derek deals with every day, are concerned, you just put your best foot forward. You try to put your best lineups out there. And as we've seen, those best lineups, you're still going to lose a lot of games anyway. So as many minutes as you can get for guys like Jared Butler, Justin Edwards, Quentin Grimes, Maxey, guys who are going to play together moving forward. I think that's probably all you can really hope for in terms of building something toward the future.
All right. Kyle Neubeck joining us live from the arena. We'll give our best foot forward here the remainder of the show to make sure that we hold things down for you and Derek, since you guys are in the arena watching all that stuff.
At least you guys have a comfy couch to sit on while we're getting deafened by the speakers here. Enjoy the game, fellas.
All right, man. We'll see you after the game. Appreciate it. Kyle Neubeck live from the arena. Go read them at allphly.com.
And that's a good point, right? Players and coaches don't tank. Coaches sometimes tank a little bit.
Hey.
Players certainly don't tank, though.
No,
you can't tell them. Organizations are the ones.
And then there are jobs that we've talked about. There might be some fall guys here, and Nick Nurse could be one of them. So with that,
he's not going to care.
He's not going to care. He's going to go out there and do his job.
Well, if he's going to keep playing Andre Drummond, then
he might be.
He's going to do both.
I'm surprised.
He's going to kill two birds with one stone there. Anyway, start Yabu. That's their best lineup.
Yeah. So we'll get to the starters in a second. Super chats. James Klima, first-time super chatter for us here. Rich, we appreciate it, James. Question, assuming Embiid is shut down for the season, what are the odds Embiid has played his last game for this team?
Oh, I don't know, James. I'm just making a number up there. 11%? I don't know. Not that high.
I'll just say he's here next year.
He's going to play.
Yeah. So percentage-wise, don't know, but I think he'll be here next year, James. Thanks for the question, though. Appreciate the super chat. And MBD, how do we get the Sixers moved to Nashville, Seattle, Siberia, anywhere? They got a new arena coming.
Could trade Luka Doncic, maybe. Do that. Well, they don't have that level.
Joel doesn't have that value.
Yeah.
Even to get Anthony Davis back and Max Christie and a first-round pick, we don't think. All right, let's get to the starters quickly here. Yabusele, you said that's their best lineup. He's at the 5 tonight for Embiid. Paul George, Kelly Oubre, Quentin Grimes, and Tyrese Maxey do round out your starting 5 for Nick Nurse's team tonight.
That's your best group.
We'll see where it goes from there.
See where it goes.
Drummond or Bona, the first off the bench for your bigs?
I wish it would be Bona, even though, as I said, losing is a better thing, and I think Bona is a fundamentally better player.
He'll still find ways to make some rookie mistakes.
He will. He will
foul
the
veteran has shown a penchant to...
Bona's their best rim protector by a mile.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Not even close. Yeah.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Jess with the super chat.
Play the kid.
Oh, look at that. Big super chat there. I'm staying
hopeful.
hopeful.
You, Jess.
Staying hopeful.
Okay.
All right. You think they win tonight, I guess, there, Jess. Staying hopeful. Thank you for the big donation to super chat. We appreciate you. Let's get to the pregame pick segment brought to you by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Never ordinary at Bet365. Quick picks here tonight. Gershon Yabusele in the starting role. Over 12.5. I thought that number was pretty good, Rich, to go with that one.
He's great as a stretch 5, right?
knock down a couple of threes.
Pick and pop threes, couple drives to the rim.
Exactly. A little dunk, hang on the rim like he typically does. 12.5 over under for him. Went with the
bully
over.
Ball post-ups.
You know what I'm saying. Josh
I
Giddey.
love that
Over 6.5 assists. He averages about 7. He's right there. He's been playing some good basketball. So Josh Giddey and Gershon Yabusele there, plus 230.
I like that one.
At Bet365. You like that, Super?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Well, that's where we're going. Bet365. Make sure you do so at Bet365. Download the app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania if you do decide to make a bet. So if you do and you do have a gambling problem and want help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. That'll do it for us. We thank everybody with the Super Chats. Jess, MBD, and James for the very first one here on the pregame show. We'll be back after the game to discuss, are we discussing snapping the 7-game losing streak or a season-high 8-game losing streak? Rich thinks they might win this one.
Enjoy the game, everybody.
Getting the W. Enjoy the game. We'll see you afterwards right here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.